Now, you've already met Shelly, and credentials are up there, but they're more than that. Shelly's been a part of this conversation for a long time and has just put out a book which provided the theme for this community day. And I'm sure she'd be happy to sell you a copy of her book in the room right over there if you find this interesting, which I'm sure you will. But joining Shelly will be Barb Newman, who that says she's that, but she's much more than that, because anywhere you go and you talk about these issues, somebody will say to me, "Oh, do you know Barb Newman?" Like, well, actually, I do know Barb Newman. So she's this and more, really a generative thinker, a creative thinker, an innovator, and a very hands-on person that helps us to always ask the question at the Summer Institute, so what, and how does this apply to humans? I think she's always has that right before her. And she's also a Henry Nouwen Award winner, which is a very significant award that recognizes her impact not just on the way people think about disability and theology and ministry, but how people live, and her life has merited that award. So it's my pleasure to introduce Shelly and Barb.
Hello. Yay, Bill. I just want to tell you, Bill, and you know, I've known you for probably since I started in this field almost 18 years ago. You have been one of the main influences in my work, and a wonderful friend, and somebody that just ignites such fire in other people. And I'm so happy that you're going to be doing the Bill Gaventa lecture. The Bill... I know. I'm listening. Ben Azai wrote, Ben Zoma Omer. If anybody can anybody read the Hebrew? Join in. Ezehu chacham halomed mikol adam. Ben Azai said, who is wise? Those who learn from everyone. And so we know in this room today and this week, there's so much wisdom. It's pouring out of the room. There's so much wisdom. And so may we listen, may we learn, and may we open up our thinking today as we talk about belonging and we talk about wisdom and where it comes from each and every soul.
I want you to know that Shelly and I have been friends for many years. And today we have the joy of presenting together. And as you may have noticed, Shelly speaks from the Jewish faith perspective, and I speak from the Christian perspective. So we would like to encourage you to join us in what we have done within our friendship, and that is to serve as excellent interpreters. Even within our faith traditions, we do not speak all of the languages that are represented by faith communities. We may use a word that you wouldn't use within your congregation. We would just ask that you don't let our language insufficiency stop a really great idea from getting to your congregation. So please use our words as we speak from our respective traditions and translate them into something that allows you to bring it back and it allows you to have an idea to try. Because we know, we are confident that there are individuals who want the language of your community to wrap around themselves and their family. So let's do it for those who have yet to find that place of belonging. I also know something that Shelly and I share in common is that we get an awful lot of emails and phone calls. Hello, is this Shelly Christensen?
Yeah, this is Shelly Christensen. Hi.
Hi. Oh, God, I can't believe you pick up the phone so early in the morning. This is great. I was calling out of frustration, actually.
Well, I've been there myself. Trust me. How can I help you today? Tell me your name, first of all.
Yeah. Well, my name is Melinda, and
Hi, Melinda.
I have a son named Sammy who lives with autism. But see, we have tried so many congregations. I can't even tell you. It has been a journey. And here's the thing: Sammy doesn't use words to express himself very much, but he sure does vocalize a lot. So we'll be setting, and I feel like everybody keeps thinking that we're messing with their sacred space, because every head turns when it happens, and I just feel like we have to leave again. And I'm so tired of this. And you got to know, like, I have dreams for Sammy too. I wanted him to be educated with his peers, and certainly, boy, that ways of celebrating becoming bar mitzvah. I wanted to do that with Sammy, and I just don't even know where to go. Can you help me?
I will help you, and we'll do this together. How's that?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Melinda, I just want to also tell you, you're not the first parent to call me, and you're not going to be the last parent to call me.
Am I the first to call you at 6 in the morning?
Yes.
Okay. I'm really frustrated, though.
Let's talk.
Okay, thanks.
Hello?
Oh, hello. This is Barbara Newman. Can I help you?
Barb. Hi, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Pastor Mary, and I'm calling CLC Network because I'm totally without ideas.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pastor Mary, absolutely. I remember speaking with you.
Good. I know we met once at a conference.
Yes.
And we now have 3 individuals in our congregation who have been diagnosed with dementia.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, we have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And I've just seen our entire congregation pull away from these individuals and their spouses.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all very active in our congregation, but now nobody pays any attention to them. And not only that, I'm not quite sure how to minister to them. I'm not sure how to be with them.
Yeah.
And it's just keeping me awake every single night. I'm so troubled by this, and I want to be there with them and walk alongside them. Can you help me?
Oh, Pastor Mary, I would love to brainstorm some ideas with you. And trust me, you are not the first pastor who's called. You have several who join you in staying up sometimes at night asking that exact question. So let's have a conversation together, but I bet we can brainstorm some ideas, okay?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for being a listening ear.
You bet.
Bye.
So what we're hoping to do, I'm guessing, do those phone calls or emails sound at all familiar to people sitting in this room, either because you have sent them or received them? Something like that? Yeah. And I'll tell you what, we are hoping to just generate some ideas to allow people to leave with some practical thoughts. And so we've divided these ideas into 2 categories. We know we need to begin at a place in a faith community where we can plant our feet. What are we going to stand on? And it's on that place, that footing, that we get to build up our practices. And so each from our traditions, we're going to share some thoughts on perspective, and I'm going to hand you that wonderful torch.
I'm dangerous with a clicker, just saying. We never know what's going to happen. Genesis 1:27, the first time in the Bible that we read about unity, about how we are all imbued with God's Spirit, created in God's image. I used to say to people, if humans are created in God's image, and we're all different and unique, what does that say about God? Oh, such a deep, deep conversation to have. What does that say about God, and what does that say about our relationship with God? Because human beings mint many coins from the same mold, but the Holy One strikes us all from the mold of the first human, and each one of us is unique. This is a commentary from the Mishnah Sanhedrin, commentary on Torah, the Hebrew Bible. And I love this because when I take this with me in my head and I meet someone new, I think, Okay, Shelly, get past what you see, what you observe, and think about this. What makes this person unique? What gifts, what strengths does this person that I'm meeting for the first time have? I'm going to paraphrase this. This is kind of dry text. So God said to Moses, Moses, this is after the burning bush, Moses, you are the man I believe, I have chosen you to free my people from Pharaoh. And Moses said to God, but God, I am slow of speech. I know that people find it difficult to understand me. I can't go to Pharaoh and demand that my people go. And God said, Moses, Moses, Moses. This is where the paraphrasing comes in. Mo, who do you think made you that way? It's no accident. It's no coincidence. I made you that way. You, Moses, possess the characteristics, the strengths, the ruach, the spirit, the fortitude, not only to free my people from Egypt, but to lead them out of the house of bondage, to lead them into the creation of a new people, of a culture, of a society, of rules, of laws, and all of those things that come together. And Moses, you know, I do happen to know you've got a lot to say. And sometimes what you have to say doesn't come out in the clearest way. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to appoint Aaron, your brother, to be your spokesperson. And God said to Moses, now watch this, Moses, because in the 21st century, or the 20th century, this is going to be called an accommodation.
I wanted to offer two pieces of this perspective part, and one of them is on the PowerPoint, and one of them is in my lunch bag. So here we go. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these green and pink puzzle pieces, but as I think of a perspective, a place to plant our feet in our congregations, this has meant a lot to several congregations. And so often I think, as Psalm 139 says, that God knit us together. My suspicion is that God used green and pink yarn for that knitting project. Green for those things that are easy for us, our areas of gifting, and pink for those areas that would just be called hot spots or challenges, the things that are more complex for us to do. And so would you agree that every one of us could hold this puzzle piece, put our name on it, and put it in front of us, because each one of us is a combination of gifts and needs, challenges, and strengths. Would you agree with that? All right. So if I were going to introduce myself to you via puzzle piece, I would let you know that green for me is anything that has to do with words, because I love them so very much. I love to read them, I love to write them. I have a Facebook account so I can play Words with Friends. I have 18 games going, and I'd love to make it 19 if any of you play. We can chat. My husband says, honey, glad you're speaking today, because you go ahead and use up all your words there at the conference. But in any event, words are really a green thing for me. They're easy for me to deal with. I'm also, if you're someone who speaks in front of a community, you really like me, because even if you go over the agreed upon time limit, I'm still the one listening. I can pay auditory attention for quite a length of time, and I love that. But the truth is, we all have those challenges, those hot spots, those pink parts, and mine show up in a variety of ways. But one of them is when my kids would say to me, hey, Mom, you want to play Xbox, PlayStation, whatever the flavor of the month was, because they would win and I would lose every single time. Anything involving eye-hand coordination has been challenging for me, along with please don't throw anything at me because I can't catch it, whiff it. I just try to protect myself from getting hurt. That's my biggest goal. But I think it's really true. In fact, I'm going to give you just 30 seconds. Would you be quiet for 30 seconds? And if you imagined having to introduce yourself via puzzle piece, what would be that green part, that gift area that you would mention to somebody? And what would be that hot spot or challenge that you have experienced in your life? Just take 30 seconds to think that through a minute. Now, if you run out of conversation at coffee time, you can tell somebody your puzzle piece, right? Because the truth is, it would be sort of cool to find your exact match or your exact opposite. And we often find that if there are couples that attend together, they can be the exact opposite of each other. I don't know if that's true for you as well. But I've learned a lot of lessons from these puzzle pieces over the years. And one of the things that I have discovered is that many times a person with a disability is considered to be an all-pink person. Have you noticed that? Oh, it's Down syndrome, Jonathan, it's wheelchair user, Bob, it's bipolar, Carlos, the list goes on, and it's like that defines an entire person. And the truth is, Scripture is very clear, God does not make all pink people. We all have gifts that we contribute to the body. Each one is essential, important, in order for the functioning of that body. Each one is valuable. And I think we need to counter that, too, with the fact that sitting in a group of leaders, people who have come to this place, God doesn't make any all-green people either, right? I think sometimes we tend to get stuck in that place that we have to be the one that has all of the parts and we can do them. That's simply not scriptural either. And yet, while I would love to have traded in my puzzle piece for an all-green one, anybody else out there like that? Please let me have an all-green piece. That, too, I believe, was God's design. Because if I were all green, folks, I wouldn't need any of you. I could run the congregation all by myself. I could get up and I could speak the words of the sermon, and then I could watch all age levels of the children that were part of there. I could bake the casserole when the people got out of the hospital, and I could fix the air conditioning or the furnace when it broke, right? That's not how we are intended to function. In fact, this is one of my favorite passages from 1 Corinthians 12, where it says, but in fact, God has arranged or placed the parts in the body, right? So not only did God take time to hand knit each one, he then takes time to place those pieces. As where I'm strong, I can come alongside of somebody else, and where that person is strong, they can come alongside of me. We make one giant God-body puzzle. So the truth is, in Sammy's situation that we were discussing earlier, the truth is, if it's true that God has hand-knit each person and then has arranged people into communities, and that congregation says, sorry, I don't have anything for you here, who loses? I would say everybody. This individual doesn't have access to the richness that's involved in being part of that congregation, that body of people that allows us to walk through the joys and challenges of life. But this body lost out too, because that puzzle piece that God had intended to arrange to grow that community, to make them stronger, to allow them to learn something, they just sent that person away. I think our conversation over the next days are really important, because we want to learn how to best be part of that same jigsaw puzzle. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. That, I think, is the perspective that has been helpful to bring to congregations. The other one is in this lunch bag. So I have worked with a number of congregations over the years and discovered congregations. I'm holding up a few cans here for those that would like to know what I'm doing at this point. They are good at building cans of things. So they build a children's ministry can, they build a women's ministry can, they build a worship planning team can, and they build a adult ministry can, right? There are all of these cans, and then they hear about persons with disabilities, and they think, oh my goodness, we need to build a... And I say, don't do that. Don't build a can. Well, we want to have opportunities. I think, since statistically it would be true that a certain percentage of every one of these cans, a higher number if it's a seniors ministry can than it is for the children's ministry can, perhaps. But there's a number, statistically, that would say these are already filled with people of all abilities. So I think a better representation for congregations is to think perspective of shredded cheese. Shredded cheese, right, gets sprinkled throughout all of those other cans. And I believe that that shredded cheese can come alongside that children's pastor and say, let's think. We've got a variety of individuals here. Some have sensory differences. How can we think about that within that setting, or the worship pastor to think about the same level of volume and those kinds of things. How can we use this idea of shredded cheese to come alongside existing leaders so that this worship pastor can own 100% of the worshipers in this can, but be equipped by some people who come alongside and say, here are some ideas. So between puzzle pieces and shredded cheese, and if anybody's hungry, come see me afterwards, I'll share, but would love to leave you with those ideas in this perspective category.
Just bring a can opener. Multitasking. I hate multitasking. It's overrated. There's a history. There's a history that leads us to where we are today. So I just want to highlight some of those things. How many of you have ever felt invisible? And the one place where we needn't feel invisible, where we can be accepted, want to be valued, want to find comfort, want to take advantage of what congregations offer, are those congregations. And yet, people with disabilities, mental health conditions, and those who love them have often been invisible. It's the age of invisibility. I remember calling a congregation when I first started my work in Minneapolis 18 years ago, right before I met Bill. I called a synagogue. My job, by the way, I was a director of a brand new program designed to awaken Jewish communal organizations, synagogues, and all organizations, awaken them to the fact that, yes, there are people with disabilities and mental health conditions in our community, and you're not even aware of it, but let's work together to change the culture. And of course, I also was able to help support people who felt invisible, and that was a really, really important part of the work. Called the synagogue, and the rabbi answered the phone, and I had known this guy when I was a little kid and told him who I am. I said, I used to be Shelly Thomas, and now I'm Shelly Christensen, the Jewish spelling. I should have said that in the beginning. And I told him that I was calling to be of support, to be of help, to help serve people with disabilities and mental health conditions. And he said, oh, that's such holy work. That's so wonderful that you're doing it. But Shelly, we don't have those people here. And I said, yeah, it's no wonder that you don't have those people there. The age of invisibility. People were marginalized. This is also where somebody may come to a congregation and sit by themselves. Nobody pays attention to them. Nobody welcomes them. You feel like you're a green puzzle piece in a field of blue, red, pink. So, and this age of invisibility is also where congregations will say immediately, we don't have the money for inclusion. We don't have the money. It's not in our budget. Or, it's not a priority. Honey, I'm here to tell you, 20% to 25% of people of your faith, they are the people who can add so much to your congregation if only you would stop putting stumbling blocks in front of them. And the stumbling blocks aren't necessarily stairs. Amen. The stumbling blocks are what? Attitudes, yeah. We can't, we don't, they can't. Which leads us, click, to the age of ministry 2 and 4. Oh, those poor lost lambs. Yes, we're going to go to the group home, and we're gonna play bingo. We're going to invite people to come to one service this year, and we'll have a nice spot for them to sit in. And maybe we'll have, a greeter or something. And they can bring their friends and they can bring their staff. But the thing is, they really can't participate and they really can't belong. They can't belong. And again, the closed-mindedness. There's a feeling that people have never been asked to share their gifts. They're not even seen as having gifts. They're not even seen as having that whole spectrum of human needs, human wants, human contributions. They're not seen that way. So congregations have to answer to this calling. What can you do to support people, to help people feel that they belong? And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to take you down that path. People don't want to be talked down to or condescended toward. You know, we could go, the list is exhaustive. Suffice to say, we're going to see these attitudinal barriers, obstacles, and we're going to see things in congregations. And when we work with people, the congregations that I've worked with, my favorite is, oh, we have an accessible restroom. Show me your restroom. I'd love to see it. And I go in the restroom, and okay, there's grab bars. There's an automatic door opener. Imagine that. Somebody raised the money for that. And then I look around and I go, so can you tell me how somebody who uses a wheelchair is going to be able to wash their hands and dry them? Or are people not required to do that here? Because the soap dispenser's up here and the towel dispenser's over here. These are all messages. They're all messages. And so we get to, in a very nice, polite, and wonderful way, and in a belonging way, an encouraging way, we get to start these conversations. Oh, no, keep going. Oh. Well, think about this statement for a moment. How do we do inclusion? We want to be more inclusive. How do we do that? It's not what we do. It's who we become as congregations and as individuals. And that's really the key. We've gotten stuck, by the way. Congregations, faith-based organizations have gotten kind of stuck and gotten very organization-centric. What can the organization do to help those people? Those people are us, sorry. It's the truth. So we have to think broader in the concept of inclusion, and that includes raising awareness. It includes having individual conversations with people with disabilities, in leadership meetings, and so on and so forth. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So, oh. Carlos said it before in the meditation. It's knowing we belong. It's knowing we're missed when we're not there. That is an inclusive community. Have a conversation. Simple as that. And not a conversation designed to get at the root of the problem, to find a solution. Just have a conversation, because from that we learn so much.
So what we would like for people to do, we've been talking, and you've heard a lot of different pieces of perspective from Moses and Aaron, and puzzle pieces and shredded cheese and belonging and inclusion and those words. And yes, football too, there we go. Lots of things that you've been thinking about, stories that we've told. Would you just have a 3-minute conversation at your table? And granted, everybody's need for sitting, standing, kneeling, if you want to take a different pose during that time, feel free to do that. But 3 minutes of a discussion based around what you've heard, what was meaningful to you. Could you talk about that at your table? And does that issue of belonging, inclusion change anything with your mindset at this point? So go ahead, 3 minutes, ready, set, go.
We just have time for 2 responses, 2 comments about this question. Hi. I love when everybody's talking and there's buzz in the room, and I wish we could continue this longer, and perhaps we will. Perhaps we will. How does your definition of inclusion change when you consider it within the context of belonging. You should maybe take. Okay, and now all that talk and nobody's answering the question. Be bold, be bold, be brave.
We're just going to take about 2 comments. So there's another second bold person. I'm on my way over.
I know that inclusion has always been a big word. That's the word. But when I started thinking about this discussion this morning after we got it going, it's like, whoa, belonging. Absolutely, we all want to belong. So to me, inclusion is a place to start a discussion. But we very quickly have to get past that to what we can do to help all of us feel like we belong. Because, tearing down some of the barriers, yeah, that's all important. But if you tear down the barriers and you're still sitting in a pew by yourself, then you're not belonging. And I can't count how many times that's happened.
Oh, thank you. Barb, and there's a gentleman in the back. Hi there.
Oh, hold on. I'm on my way. We'd love to hear your words in this microphone as I weave my way back here.
Inclusion really is about supporting a setting so all are equally valued, safe, and welcome.
Thank you. Safe and welcome.
Okay. This afternoon, Barb and I will each be holding a workshop session, and mine will be continuing this conversation. So we will be able to talk a little bit more about belonging and talk about the next topic, the next foundation. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. We're going to go back and forth a bit. The structure of inclusion. So we talked about the spirit of belonging being person-focused, individual-focused, human being-focused, relationships with each other, helping, supporting someone to flourish, to thrive, to live the kind of life that they wish, that they hope for, that they dream of. It's really fitting that we're at Hope College, just saying. So the structure of inclusion is organization-focused, and this is what creates that way for organizations to come together around inclusion and belonging and really think about how to foster a more welcoming, supportive environment so people can feel that they belong. There's a million things that go into this category. The conversation often with the congregation is, oh, how do we do inclusion? How do we do this? How do we do inclusion? And it's a big culture shift. I'm just going to touch on just a few of the highlights. The rest is in my book. Anyway. So the structure of inclusion provides leadership. How many times have you thought, well, this is really a great idea, or you've heard this is really a great idea, but who's going to own it? Who's going to own it? We can't ask our clergy. They're stretched into next year. We can't ask them. I don't know if we can ask the lay leadership. Maybe this should belong to the social action committee, or there's all these different ideas of who should own it. And again, a leadership specifically focused on belonging and inclusion is what's needed. It needs intentionality. And these are just some of the components. Assessing your congregation or your community. Think about going on a trip, right? Do you know your starting point? Do you know your destination? Maybe, maybe not. But how do you know where you're going unless you know where you are? And that's why assessing and having conversations around where we are currently is really critical. Community conversation, this comes right from the work of Eric Carter, and Bill and Eric will be leading a community conversation on Wednesday. I'm really excited for you to participate because this brings in people, can bring in people, not just the choir, as we say, but many different voices, many different people to generate ideas, solutions, to riff, to brainstorm on how and why to create, actually how to create a more inclusive environment. So more details on that later. Creating a plan with goals, timelines, communicating inclusion, having an inclusion statement and an accommodation statement. Please contact, state the name of the person if you have an accommodation request, if you need an accommodation. Train your staff to respond to those. And then here's the key. Actually, okay, now we're going back. So a little bit more about leadership. Oh, it didn't get in. Okay, this slide has a different name. It's called Leadership and Inclusion. Oh, that one says Leadership and Inclusion. Least mechanical technical person you'll ever meet. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about leadership and why it's so important. You know, we've all heard the obstacles in place. We can't do this, we don't do this. And you know, change is imminent, change is important. Becoming that inclusive community where people feel that they belong is a value. And yet you get either the gatekeepers or the naysayers. Look at me labeling people. It's just, stop that. But people resist change. And one of the roles of a leader is to listen, listen, listen. Try to understand what the resistance is, where it's coming from, and then talking with the resistor to help them understand. Because people will resist. People will resist change. They'll resist, we don't need an inclusion initiative. We don't have people like that here. You hear it all. So I want you to just remember from this slide about leadership. Resistance is essential to change. And listening as a leader, listening to resistance, is one of the most loving, generous, supportive things that you can do. Because we want to get everybody on the bus. It's important. One of the questions that I always have for congregations is why is being inclusive important to this community? Why is this important? Speak to it. There's scripture, there's stories. I love hearing about this from the pulpit. It's an opportunity, those of you who are clergy, who speak from the pulpit. We don't have the money. Ooh, have you ever heard that one? Well, that's a conversation starter, isn't it?
We don't have the money.
Can't do it. Okay. I just want to address a little bit about money and budgeting. One of the best ways to get started is to do an audit of expenses for the last 3 years that are focused on belonging and inclusion. Just go through that budget, and it doesn't matter if you're a large congregation or a small gathering of people. Look at where the money's gone. Look at how it's been spent. Has it been spent for education? Has it been spent for scholarships so people can attend social events? How is it spent for camp, and how is it spent for recreational programming? And then look at that. And because you've done an assessment and you know where you are, and because you have a plan and you know where you're going, now you're going to be able to say, okay, this may require so many dollars, and right now maybe we don't have that. We're going to look for low-cost and no-cost ways to create a community where people feel that they belong. That's all I'm going to say about budgeting for now. So, these are some points of entry into congregational life, and I want to talk about worship. And I kind of want to talk about the elephant in the worship room. That would be the sanctuary, most likely. How many of you have heard these words, "Please rise"? Or you've seen this. By the way, I'm lifting my arms up in the air, indicating people should stand. And if you aren't able to see that, how do you know it's time to stand? Yeah. Yeah, right? Please stand. So I'm going to talk about standing and the stand language. Please stand. Please stand as you are able. That's a quick one. Please stand as the Spirit moves you. This is what one rabbi had to say about stand language. He said, "Throughout our service, when our liturgy calls for it, I will be inviting you to rise and stand together as a congregation. I also recognize that may not be possible for people. If you are not able to rise when the liturgy calls for it, don't fret. Sit comfortably. If you can stand up, I invite you to when the time comes. But whether you are sitting or standing, your prayers will be accepted the same. May we together be carried to the great heights that our rituals intended to take us to." Wow. For many kinds of social programming and youth groups and camps, particularly camps, schools even. I want to share this from a friend of mine, Lisa Handelman, who's a community inclusion specialist. And she talks about camp, but I invite you to take this statement and paint a broad brushstroke over every aspect of congregational life. Anyone who has ever had the privilege to attend summer camp will often say, "Camp is where I get to be my best self." Summer camp is also an opportunity for us to experience our communal best self. This is especially true when there is a vibrant disability inclusion culture. So there they are, several points of entry, and if you can think of other points of entry, add that to the list.
Oh, we could talk for hours on practical ideas. So I picked a slice of something I have seen congregations grab hold of and love, and I hope you do too. And it is an idea that I really want to think about, especially in worship, but of course we have to think about that idea called universal design. And thanks to architects, they don't build buildings by interviewing people in the neighborhood who might be a wheelchair user and saying, "Do you think you'll use that building? Because we'll throw an elevator in it." That's not how they do the planning. They build it, are you ready? Expecting persons of varied abilities to use that building. So they build it in from the beginning. They just plan for it. The other thing that educators love this term, universal design for learning. They know that as they're looking at a class filled with their students, that every learner is going to handle that differently. So they build in options from the beginning. They are expecting a class filled with people of varied abilities. And I think if we were really bright, we would just do the same thing within our worship setting, education setting, but I picked worship for today because I wanted to share some very practical examples. While it might mean equal access, and we might be thinking about one individual, this is not accessible design. This is universal design. This is for 100% of the people. So I want to convince you of this just a moment. Do you know, some of you use these routinely, what little picture is on that button that you push to open those doors? There's a wheelchair picture on there, right? But if this is you, What are you going to do? We use features all the time, garage door openers, opportunities, curb cutouts if you're pushing a stroller. Now let's just imagine perhaps your congregation has intergenerational worship. Perhaps you have worship where English is not the first language of everybody represented there. So as I talk about these ideas, I'd like you to consider that we're really not talking about 20 to 25% of the individuals. We're talking about all of us. So might I say, I think this is one of the coolest things people can use. How many of you check a hotel before you go and visit there because you want to check it out before you arrive? Put your hand up if that's you. You know what? Or your thumbs up. You know what? We do that. What are we looking for? What do you want to know about that hotel? Just call out some answers. What are you looking for? Do they have a pool? Do I pack a swimsuit? Right?
Free breakfast.
And do they serve only carbs for that breakfast, right? We got to know these things. There's a whole long list of things we're looking for. How many of you think it would be cool to have a preview posted of worship in your community on your website? Don't you think that that would be an outstanding way for people to be comfortable? Some people will appreciate it. Other people will need it before they enter your building. So if you could post that, and if you had one picture included in that preview of at least one individual who may happen to have a visible area of disability, you have now spoken volumes to those who are looking for a welcoming church where people could find places of belonging. So think about that. Are there things you could do on your website in advance so people could preview your setting? The other thing that I have seen go gangbusters in some communities is a merged order of worship, where there are both words and pictures that are on there. The woman who put it together put a little check mark in front of it at her church. And guess those individuals who were like children loved that. But so would my father as he was working through stages of dementia. He soon relied on those pictures in order to be able to understand what was going on, and they gave definition to the words. It was a beautiful thing, and many people would take their pencil and they would check off, check, 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 we did that, until one little person went up to the organizer and said, we need way more check marks in front of that thing called sermon. Some individuals need something a little more concrete, so maybe you put the order of worship in pictures and that people can peel off and put away when they're done with them. This is a really great technique as well if you want people to stay engaged or it's helpful for them. Another thing I think is important is to choose that big idea. What is the big idea that you hope to convey? Because if you know what that big idea is, it gives you some multisensory options. So for example, maybe we're talking about oaks of righteousness, and we're going to have a treasure chest, and at some point during the time, we're going to pull out and reveal the treasure in God's word for us today. And there's that oak, that actual item. Many people will appreciate that. In fact, who here is sort of glad we have stuff? Because you learn better if you can see it. Would you raise your hand a minute? Oh, no, wait, no, keep your hand up. Would you look around and see how many people relate best when there are visuals or something tangible to touch? And now would you think of a typical worship service in your setting? Wow, I think it's time we went to a few more visuals for a good chunk of everybody, including those who are present in this room. Another thing is once you know that big idea, you have some options to play with. So for example, let's just imagine that we were going to talk about being thankful. And so here is our display board, and I now have some pictures of things that we can be thankful for. And I can now go to somebody and ask them, without using words, what are you thankful for today? Would you touch that, Liz? She's thankful for her family. Anybody else? Not so many people. Anyway. Once you have some visuals, once you have some tools like this, it really allows you to offer some different options within that setting. Streamers for people to wave instead of use words to sing praise. Maybe somebody would rather do this. So again, once you have that big idea, it creates avenues of participation, creating accessible worship, that conversation with God. And I think that that's really powerful. Yeah, I will in just a second. In fact, I have this stuff. You can play with it at break if you want to. I know. And for those of you that didn't want to wear an apron, there's a great stick up here. You can cover whatever you want to. This is actually automotive fabric that's on the underside of your car because Velcro sticks to it really well. The other thing that I think is as hospitable sometimes that we forget is just stocking equipment. So I was visiting one church, and they knew that the pews were made, they're hard, and so they had a back area where they had some seat cushions people could pick up. Then they found these wiggle cushions. For some people, really helps to have a cushion of air underneath them in order to pay better attention to what's going on. And so they threw a few of those on the back pew, universal design. If anybody would appreciate borrowing one of the seat cushions from the back pews, feel free to do so. Just return them at the end of the service. Stocking some of these things in your children's area. Here's the question, folks. If you know that you need this item or that your child needs this item and you see it in a congregation, what have you just expressed to that family or to that individual? Absolutely. We were planning on you joining us. We've been ready. So I think whatever equipment that means, and I don't have time to go through all of that, how important it is to stock some things. Some individuals did they called them pew pouches, and they just put bags at the end of the pew with fidgets inside and said, feel free to use them. Just replace them when you're done. And so they stuck these on every pew. Anybody could grab them. Universal design. We know many people will need it in order to survive the service. Some will like it and some won't use it at all, but we've created some options. Don't you love that idea of universal design? And there's so many different ways that we could talk about that today. So anyway, Shelly, I was just wondering if you could tell me, what's the plan? What are we going to do?
Well, what we're going to do, if it's okay with you, is meet for coffee and talk about your hopes, your dreams, what Sammy does. And I'm just kind of curious, Melinda, when Sammy vocalizes, what is he trying to communicate? What is he communicating?
Well, I know the way that I hear his tone of voice, he has great joy in that setting. I just wish other people could interpret his voice like I do.
Yeah. So let's plan on meeting for coffee, and we'll
Good.
just talk through some ideas, and I just want you to know that I'm here for you, with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Shelly. I appreciate the work that you do. And hey, I plan on picking up a copy of your book. Where's that available?
At the Summer Institute on Theology and
Oh,
Disability,
excellent.
or on
Excellent.
Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and Kindle.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Hi, Barb.
Oh,
So
yes.
what?
Pastor Mary.
Yeah, what do we do next?
You know, I have talked to lots of congregations, and there's no one answer fits all, but I do know that many congregations are finding that as part of worship, they've just started to plant a whole lot more visuals that are part of that. In fact, they've even encouraged key staff people to just wear their name tag so nobody comes up to individuals and say, do you remember me? Like, that's really a bad thing to do. But, you know, they just wear name tags, and they've trained the congregation to be comfortable in that setting, and I think that's really important. Yeah, and the other thing is sometimes they form these wraparound teams, and I just wonder if
Wow.
you've spoken with any of the couples, if that would be helpful for them to intentionally equip some individuals to maybe, you know, continue those conversations and those relationships, but that they're comfortable being in that setting altogether.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, Barb, because they had many friends in the congregation, and what we've really seen is that people have really stepped away. So I'm wondering
Right.
if we need to just start working together, all of us, the
Yeah. families
and their friends, and just making it comfortable for people. I don't want a program. We don't need a
No,
program.
you don't need a program,
No.
but you do want to factor in Agnes and Harry because they desire to continue to be in that community of belonging. Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you. Let's go for coffee.
Hey, I'd love that. Okay, bye.
Bye.
We want to honor some time constraints, and so it had been our original intent, but we still want to challenge you to do this. And maybe you can do that when you see Shelly and I. We'll be around for the next 4 days. What's that one thing that you really know you want to do? What are those things that you're going to bring back to your community? Did you like that idea of putting that budget together, checking some things out? Did you like that idea of maybe, again, putting fidget bags and pews and thinking, how can we prepare and expect people of varied abilities to be part of all of our settings in the congregation? What does that look like? So as you interact, as we see you, say, hey, this is something I'm totally going to try, or tell one another that. I think that's really important. But we also wanted to close by knowing that you are key people, and wanted to close with a blessing, and then it will be coffee time. So would you permit us to speak this passage over you? I've cleared it with Shelly. After all, she reminds me, Paul was
One of my people,
Yeah.
member of the tribe, a Jewish
So-
man.
Yeah. So these words are very comfortable to both of us, and let me speak these over you as a blessing. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace. You know, God doesn't do things in small amounts. God wants to fill you with those things. They're not drips. May you experience that while you're here. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, as you trust in God. Please don't trust in Shelly or Barb or the other speakers that you're going to. Trust the one who hand-knit each individual that's part of your community. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope. What a beautiful thing you get to bring back to your congregations, because we know, that within a 5-mile radius of your congregation, there are people who have wanted to belong. And you come with that message. You are welcome here. You belong here. We need you here. We recognize your gifts here, and you will watch that hope dawn on that individual, that family space. And that is a gift to be able to bring God's hope to that situation. Our perspective is not the same as the world's perspective. God has given us different eyeglasses, a different perspective on which we plant our feet, and that's the hope-giving perspective that we bring. So may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope, and not because you stopped at Starbucks, you started an exercise regimen, you were the one who gathered up and mustered all of this interest. No, even that is a gift from God. So here's the whole passage. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen?
Amen.